HO Talk Show. I am HO Talk Show, Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
That's right. Back like we never left. And thank you all for joining us, because we are joined right now with a special guest. You know, I'm gonna kick it over to Miss Max.
Yeah.
Because whenever there's like good, powerful Black woman energy, I always like Miss Max to lead that, because I don't want to, damper it at all, anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Charles. This is really always a great respect. Anytime I get to engage with this individual, have them on the show. It's been a great support in time of need, but also doing great community work. And if you're Facebook friends or I presume friends on any social media platform, she loved them babies, right?
That's right. That's for sure.
And I'm referring to none other than Dr. Sherica Jones-Lewis. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you, and happy to talk to you about this new role that you've taken on. Super excited. I was over the moon just to hear that you were working with our kids in our local schools, Charlottesville City Schools, and I knew they were in good hands. Like, that is great when you hear about somebody being put into a role that is caring for something that is dear and has great potential and needs to be handled carefully. And you get the perfect person in that role to be able to do that task. And so, yes, you've recently taken on the role as the Director of Community Schools for Charlottesville City Schools. And we want to talk all about that, what that means, what you'll be doing, and then, of course, how this will impact our community.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Sherica Jones-Lewis. I am the Director of Community Schools for the city. I also still have my role at the Center for Community Partnerships at UVA, where I'm the Director of Community Research.
Okay.
And so I'm happy to be here and happy to be able to work with all of the wonderful people and organizations and also people in the schools that are already doing such beautiful work.
Awesome.
Yes, indeed. So there's a lot of questions, when the position came up, as far as folks even asking me, and probably ask Max too, like, did she leave UVA? So is she a teacher again? Is she a principal now? So for folks that don't know, when they hear Director of Community Schools, go ahead and break that down for us. Let us know first how that came to be, and then what that entails.
Absolutely. So like I said, I do still have my other job as well. And I think that being able to work across organizations has been useful. When you hear community schools, it is exactly what it sounds like. And that is schools and community really working together in order to serve our students and families as best we can. And so making sure that we are not siloed and not just working schools by themselves, but also some support from the university, but most of the support coming from the city of Charlottesville itself, right? So coming from the Department of Human Services that already does amazing work that they have been doing over decades. And then also from a lot of our community-based organizations that have been working with our youth and with our families. And really my job is to make sure or try to make sure, it's hard, that those things are working together. And so that those efforts are really amplified, so that we are reducing unnecessary duplication, but also duplicating things that we see are working across space. So if we see something working in one area, really trying to double down on that, and support those efforts as best we can.
Okay. Nice. What can you tell us so far? Because this is a fresh position, is new. So like, what has that integration looked like thus far? Any tidbits you can give us as to like how it started? Like what some of the early projected goals are that all of those partners that you're mentioning are kind of coming to the table for.
Yeah. I feel like that was a lot of questions, so I'm gonna try to tackle the ones I remember. So the Virginia Department, let me start with community schools is a national model, all right? And so it's something that's used all over the country in order to improve quality of life and outcomes for students and families. The Virginia Department of Education actually offers some grant funds for schools and or school divisions to be able to implement a community schools model. So Denise Johnson, who works for the city, applied for one of these grants and really asked for a few different things in her grant application. One of them was a person to coordinate this work, which is where my role comes in. Another one was for money for a van to be able to transport materials and students and other things across the city as needed.
Okay.
And then she also asked for money for some literacy supplies. And so understanding that one of our major issues in the schools is that some of our students are really struggling with their reading proficiency. And so understanding that often takes a lot of different resources, some of them tangible. And so that is what that initial grant is for. My role is to really understand what it would take to make some of this work more sustainable, right? And so I'm really working on coordination, evaluation, and sustainability. And so again, we're not doing a lot of new things because there's already so much wonderful going on. We are trying to better coordinate those things across space so that they are sustainable in the future.
Okay.
Great.
And can we dig into
Awesome.
what those key points are or issues are that your department and those that you're coordinating with across the city are working to address? So reading proficiency being one of those. Is there sort of a list of things that you all are tackling?
Definitely. So, and again, what we are tackling has been co-created with our community. So is an advisory board that has half Charlottesville City School staff and half community members.
Okay.
And then for each level, there are working groups as well. Okay. So there's a K-6 level that we're calling Confidence and Comprehension Club. Nice. And that has a bunch of working group members. And then we have bridge builders that are focusing on our middle schoolers. And then we have the lab where we're focusing on our high schoolers across both of the campuses. And so we came to the table with the initial goals that were written up in the grant, and we presented those out to folks and said, are we on the right track?
Okay.
What do we need to add, omit, change? And then we came up with some revised goals. So at the high school level, we are really focusing on coordination. So a lot of our students at the high school level just kind of get lost in the sauce. And so the Virginia Department of Education is really focusing on a 3E model where they want not just our students to graduate, which we also want, but they want them to, after graduation, be employed, enrolled, or enlisted. Okay. And so really looking at those three avenues of not just us kind of getting them through, but getting them to something that's going to really help them to have a positive life after that. And so that could mean our students, like we said, getting a job straight out that we help them to coordinate. Sarah Morton at Virginia Career Works is leading a lot of that work already. We're trying to improve coordination in terms of how do we get her those names and allow her to be able to tap in with those students earlier. We are also looking at some of our students who have historically struggled to keep up with their high school graduation credits and what it looks like to support them on alternative paths. We still want them to graduate, but again, giving them a reason to want to graduate. If we always frame graduation around going to college and they don't want to go to college, then they're like, well, what am I graduating for?
Exactly.
And so we're working with PVCC on they already have a platform that they use to get folks ready to work. Okay. So looking at driver's license and certain skills. And so using something similar for our high school students.
Okay.
I know I'm talking a lot.
That's the answers.
Yeah. At the middle school level, we are really focusing on belonging and sense of self.
That's great.
And so we have a lot of our CBOs instead of, including City of Promise, Abundant Life, Creciendo Juntos, Civil Tulips, Charlottesville United, and Boys and Girls Club are going to be pushing into lunches at Charlottesville Middle School, actually starting this week.
Okay.
And just building relationships with our students. One of our goals that you asked about earlier was social emotional learning. So understanding that doesn't stop when you hit 5th grade, right? And so really infusing some of those skills into those lunch groups is one of our goals, but we're starting with, we just need the students to be open and talking, and then also building some better sense of self. So some of those groups will be run in English, some will be run in Spanish, and some will be run in Arabic to allow them space and opportunity to speak their home languages, but then also to cross those groups over and make sure that they are building relationships in and amongst themselves.
Right.
And then lastly, I'll talk about the Confidence and Comprehension Club. So that's really focused on those two things. So building confidence for our students and focusing on things like school attendance and literacy, but also comprehension. Juanica Howard from the Department of Human Services. And again, that department, I'm going to talk just about the reading clubs that she started both at Summit and at Trailblazer. But y'all know that Latara and John and there's Charles C. and Misty. That department already does amazing work across all of these spaces and groups. And so part of my job is to make sure that whatever we're doing is not getting in the way of that.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
And that was sort of going to be my next question.
Okay. And so just in terms of the Confidence and Comprehension Club, there's the reading clubs. We're also working with UVA to train literacy mentors. And these are not relationship-based mentors, but they are mentors who are meant to actually help teach the students to read. And then we're also working on amplifying some of our relationship mentors. We're working with College Mentors for Kids that already does a great job with a lot of our schools and students. They're actually adding Tall Oaks, formerly Johnson, as of February. So the planning for that is in place now. They'll start with 10 students this year. And if all of that goes well, they'll be able to scale up to 30 to 40 students who are able to receive relationship-based mentoring in next school year.
Okay. That's great work. It's a mouthful, but I'm sorry. It's great work. The only comment I really want to make, and I have to say this because for those of you who listen to me Sunday after Sunday, you know I'm a really people-centered person. So to hear the work that's being poured into these students, especially in the lower grade levels, as far as a sense of belonging and mentorship and handling of their emotions and different things like that. That is so vital. That is the foundation to everything. So great to hear that type of work is going on because it really sets the stage of whether or not they'll be able to perform adequately as they reach those higher grades and have good relationships and really fulfill or live a productive and fulfilling life. So,
and Razor,
good.
I know how you think after 10 years.
Yeah.
So you may or may not be going here, but so you mentioned as far as collaboration and integration and not getting in the way, actually utilizing the current services, right, and really amplifying those to get this work done. I'm sure there's going to be naysayers. I'm sure there's people listening to this and like, yeah, all that sounds great, but this is Charlottesville. And people are going to be very opinionated. People are going to feel like there's toes are getting stepped on, all that kind of thing. So, can you talk just a little bit about some of the methodology and some of the means, from your perspective, that can be used to really achieve this integration and this collaboration, right? Like when you bring folks to the table for, how do we make people at the table feel like that they really are being listened to and that their work is appreciated?
I think actually listen to them and then and actually appreciate them. And so I'm a human, right? Like I'm going to make mistakes, but I really do try to be humble. And I say in almost every interaction, like I know some things. I know one thing I know for sure is that I don't know everything, right? And that we cannot meet the needs of our students and families if we don't work together. So it's really not an option. What I've found is that everyone is really trying to work hard to do their best in their realm. And there are sometimes that like people's toes get stepped on, or like people get upset. How I handle that and how we generally handle that at the center is to just apologize, right? Like like genuine apology. Like if we ever do something that is abrasive or is not leading towards the goal of making things better for students and families, like truly that is something we are sorry for, right? Because it's never the goal to try to usurp power or energy or space or any of that. And frankly, if that is the goal, then I would tap out. Because that's never going to work. Like we have to work together. What I keep saying to people is you can't have community schools without community, and you can't have community schools without schools. One of the things that I'll mention too is that what you didn't hear me say is doing a lot of work directly with teachers. And that is because our teachers, we know, are already busting their butts. They are already, if y'all don't listen to anything else from this, pay teachers. So teachers are already underpaid. They are already working their tails off. And so we are trying to again enter into this work being supportive of that work, but not requiring more of them, and not making for sure that our lanes are not getting into their lanes. And so that's what we got to do, is like actually be humble and actually be working towards the betterment of our students and families.
Charles, I got to add this part. You do know how I think. Dr. Lewis, we're going to step on some toes here for a second, because y'all do amazing work as teachers, right? But one of the things that I don't think that we say enough to our community, and that's not just talking about Black people, but just people that are struggling when it comes to their education, is that when somebody like yourself comes along and sets a barometer, a baseline, that does not mean because it's difficult that we then turn around and say, you know what, we want to create ebonics so that we can have success by doing less than, or this is what we're comfortable doing, so this is what is going to be our measure of success, and then cry when our kids graduate and then can't get jobs because they can't talk adequately at an interview. So what I would urge us is to see how we can then join into what you're creating and not look for the easy route. I think that is a huge problem when it comes to our children now, because the parents of these children really didn't have the best education themselves, right? They want better for their children. But when the child comes home with homework that they don't really understand, they either push it off, or they, it starts to bring about something internal in them that shows an inadequacy in their, to the child. And no parent wants to look less than their child. So I think that however we can get to the point where parents can admit that they don't, like you said, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know everything, right? But I'm here to support. And that doesn't mean that I throw up a roadblock because I can't help my child do the work. I ran across that with my father could add numbers in underwater, right? But when it came to some other things, he just didn't know how to do it. So he did the old man thing. Well, I don't know, go ask your mama. Or I sit down and look at it. Look at what did the teacher tell you? And I think that still goes along till today, but that's something that we don't talk about, especially when it comes to our Black men who may not always be in the house or may not be prevalent in the education. Because when I go to like, these, not the school board meetings, but when I go to do things for my children in school, there's only like 2 or 3 Black males that's present. Now, I understand people got to work, but when they start talking about, okay, can you read this to the kids, or the thing that Charles had me go to where we were reading to the students, even though we're taking pictures and we're clapping, it's only 13 people out of however many African-American children that we have there. Mm-hmm. And I think that we have to do a better job in our community of supporting things, like going to these meetings and finding out what you require of me in the next semester. Mm-hmm. So that I can be ready before that comes. And if I don't know what to do, I can get help so I can be an adequate part of the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a couple of different things there. Like you said, when we say we are talking about all of us. Mm-hmm. So not just Black students and families, but every single student and family in the community. And I also think that you really hit on something important, and that is one of the pillars. There's 4 pillars of community schools. The first is integrated student supports. And that means making sure that all of their basic needs are met, not expecting them to come to school hungry or without with like having a toothache or things like that, and still be able to learn, really meeting those needs. Mm-hmm. The second is expanded and enriched learning opportunities. And so that includes not just some of the things we talked about with the academic learning, but also the social emotional learning. Mm-hmm. And so that could be enriching things that are happening within the school environment, but also things that are happening outside of the school environment. The third pillar is family and community engagement, right? We are going to be at First Baptist on January 29th. Mm-hmm. From 6 to 7 p.m. We don't want to drag it too late because we know people need to get out. There will be free parking at the parking lot beside First Baptist, and there will also be food. We're going to start with focusing on reading school reports, right? And so you'll sometimes get your students' SOL report or their MAP report, which is measures of academic progress, and or their reading program support. We use HMH, and then parents don't know how to read it. Right. And so they don't necessarily understand where their students' reading level is. And so they don't necessarily understand whether how to then help them, or maybe the urgency of that help. The schools do provide this information. We want to make sure that the information is provided in a way that our community members can really receive it, and also that there's two-way feedback, right? So an opportunity to ask questions and to really sit down with a report and go, well, what about this part? Or this part confuses me, or I'd like to know this, right? So really building that two-way communication. The fourth pillar of community schools is collaborative leadership. So like I said, with the advisory board and the working groups, but it's also the fact that when we went and met with the pastor and some of his congregation members at First Baptist, they said, we need this. Right. That's good. And so not we're going to from central office say the people need to know this, because that does not work. Even if you build it, many times people will not come. You need to be working with people to understand what they need, where they need it, how they need it in order to really, really make that work. Yeah. The only other thing that I'll say, as a Black mom myself, is that we do have to take responsibility for the things that we do have control over, right? And so many times it's issues of transportation or access timing. Like you said, people are at work, right? And that does not mean that they don't care about their children. But when we can tap in, when we can get our students over to maybe the Abundant Life space or the City of Promise space or to the church or to other things, we should. And then when we can't, and this is maybe something that I'm asking for, is asking for help, asking for support. And breaking down some of those mental barriers that we have that sometimes don't allow us to do that. And
when you say asking, you're speaking of city government, everyday citizen, a hybrid, or?
I think individual people asking individual people for supports is where a lot of this starts. But I also, this is why I'm really leaning into talking about our community-based organizations. That's where a lot of the trust sits that is necessary for this work to be able to happen, right? So if I'm already talking to, this is a great example, is that Z Howard was at the school board meeting on Thursday with some of the dream builders, really talking about things that their students are facing that they would like support for, right? So that her relationship, the City of Promise relationship with those individuals and through that program are why that happens. And so making sure, again, we don't need to recreate the wheel and think of a bunch of different ways to be pulling in folks. We need to use the infrastructures that we have and to amplify those.
And I think there's just a point to be made about that last comment that you said too, because a lot of times we're having discussions about what the city needs, like what we're lacking for our communities to be able to thrive. But what you're saying is that what we need for our children and to see the success of our children already exists.
A lot of it.
Yeah, it's already functioning here. It just might need to be stretched or expanded a bit, but it's already here. We just need to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yes, taking advantage of opportunities and really utilizing a lot of the stuff that's already in place. And there might be some additional things, right? But how do we even know that if we're not already accessing some of the things that are in place? I reposted yesterday on my Facebook page that the KYIP applications opened up.
Yeah, I saw.
And KYIP is really focused on supporting Charlottesville's city youth and having those early job opportunities and really teaching them how to be an employee, right? Again, when I talk to parents and to other folks about what they want their kid to graduate with, it's not calculus, right? It is
a whole human being,
right?
Yeah.
And like them understanding like how to hold their head up and how to walk into a room, and some of those financial literacy things like how to balance your account and how to think about money, which is another thing I should mention. Some of our lab folks are working on how do we get in with students and really give them more of those opportunities to understand that real world kind of money issue. But we need to be working together in order to see some of these beautiful opportunities.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Agree.
So I think lastly, the question is, do you feel everybody is at the table, like the stakeholders are at the table? And if not, how do they reach out? How would one get involved? Is there channels for feedback or input, things like that?
Do I feel everybody's at the table? No, because...
Well, don't come to the table if you're coming with your ego. And look, I wanted to jump on Raise's bandwagon, but I didn't want to belabor the point. No. Like, come for these babies, right?
Right.
Well, and I will say everybody who we have been engaging with has definitely come for the babies.
Okay.
Absolutely, positively.
Good.
In terms of is everybody at the table, I did want to talk about this one piece. One of the things that community schools models does pretty widely is they have like a parent advisory.
Okay.
The reason we did not set that up, and it's something that I'm definitely willing to take feedback on, is that if you have a parent advisory that meets at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're going to get the people who can meet at 11 a.m. And then if you have one that meets at 7 p.m., you're going to get the people who, right. So like, I really can't wrap my head around how we don't cut people out of the process by trying to bring people into the process. So how we're handling that right now is, again, coordinating with our already existing parent groups across our CBOs in order to be getting feedback, but also just being open to feedback, right? Like, the parents and community members who were at the meeting at First Baptist, they're not on the parent advisory, but they are parents. Okay. So they can advise.
Yeah.
Right. We are working right now, and I did just start November 1st. But we are working right now on how do we set up a more sustainable mechanism to hear parent voices and to be able to coordinate responses to those. I would think that one of the important things to state here is if you're a parent and you're like, I really need this and it's urgent, go to your school. There are school social workers at each school, and also I'm trying to think of the role. Other people who work in Rachel Rasnick's office at the school who can really help with some of those immediate supports. We are then meeting with the school personnel and our CBO. Sorry, I should say that too. If you don't feel comfortable going to the schools, you can also reach out to some of these community-based organizations. And as we are meeting with them, we are really gathering information on what we need to do. If people have other ideas as to how we can have a coordinated response for feedback,
I got one.
All ears. Go ahead.
Dr. Lewis, have you ever thought about, like, sales is my thing. That's what, I'm into. The most profitable time for sales is holiday times. We tend to look at school and education like, everybody needs their time that breaks away. But if you were to open it up somehow during holiday times, regardless of how small that holiday is, a lot of people are off and people go shopping during that time. So they will actually leave their house if it's something that they want to do. So maybe thinking out the box and then meeting them at what they're already doing might be a way, because they're going to be out anyway.
It's a thought. What I will say is that then will, especially our school-based personnel, that kind of cuts them out of the equation because they do get very few days off. And so, but it's definitely something to think about.
Is it for the information though? I'm sorry, I didn't pull the mic. Because for the school personnel, if they take their time off, but then you have like volunteers come in to just gather the information, then they relay it back to the people, then it's still a transactional thing. So that might be a way of working it.
Yes. And we don't want it to be necessarily transactional, right? But relationship building. But like you said, too, there is some value in like just letting people know stuff. And that's something that we are definitely doing. But also in the making sure that it's just not like a one-way flow of information, that it's really relationship building and really leaning into that engagement piece in ways that are meaningful to the community. Also understanding that our school calendar doesn't match everyone's holiday calendar, and that we need to be cognizant of, we have a very varied student and family population who celebrate a lot of different things, and some of our students and families who don't celebrate at all, right? And so really understanding that as well. I think that one of the things that's always resonant with me is that we have all of our students and we have student groups, but every single student deserves the best experience. Y'all know that I worked, when I was an assistant principal, I was down at Walton. Some of my neediest students don't necessarily fit into the student groups that we normally talk about. Them babies still needed support and they deserve it, right? So making sure that we're not losing any individual student as we talk about students.
Okay. Good stuff, Miss Max.
Yeah, I want to, a follow-up question as far as community members getting involved. You had mentioned that UVA was training individuals to be literacy teachers and mentors. Is that something that any and everyone could sign up for if they're interested?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we're working with Stacey Riedall, who is the literacy coordinator for the city. And we already have some literacy mentors that are trained. We need to work with UVA to just better understand capacity. One of the things that we will be doing though moving forward is not just training students, right? Because that's who has normally been trained is UVA students, which is great. but UVA students, also PVCC students,
Okay.
and then community members as well.
Okay.
We know that if I'm a literacy mentor and I'm trained to teach someone to read, but I don't have the relationship to get them to sit down or to get them to have a conversation with me, that doesn't work. And so we need our community members to be also tapping into that work.
Okay.
So that it is, again, sustainable and works best for our students.
Right. This is awesome. Glad to hear that this is happening in our community. Glad to hear, honestly, that you're leading the charge. And I wish it much success. And I know you'll give it everything you got to see that happen.
Will do.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Dr. Jones-Lewis, go ahead and correct him. You ain't got to be scared.
I'm not scared.
Her last name is Jones-Lewis.
We appreciate you, though. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.